today is not only National Nurses Day, but I just found out it's also National Teachers Day as well. Well, we are on today is National Nurses Day. It's always observed on May 6th. It's funny that nurses and teachers are observed on the same day. So on this day, we're raising awareness for all nurse contributions and commitments and acknowledge their vital role that they're playing in society. And today is also the first day of National Nurses Week, also sometimes known as National RN Recognition. And let me tell you something. If ever there was a year to be recognizing nurses, doctors, people in the medical field, it is this year. Not only are they putting in exhausting hours, not only are they working with in most or many hospitals, I don't want to say most, but certainly in many, many hospitals in many places, not only in New York or in the United States, but around the world, working in conditions that are less than ideal in overcrowded emergency rooms and ICU rooms. And they're working with materials they got to make for themselves to protect themselves, or sometimes with no protective gear whatsoever. I mean, we saw in the beginning of this crisis, nurses walking around with paper bags around their bodies because there just wasn't enough protective gear. And they're putting in exhausting shifts and they're risking their life. They're risking their life so they can save another life. And what better person is there in the world that somebody who will risk their own life to save another life? I mean, that's literally what they're doing. I don't know that a nurse went to nursing school to say, you know what, I'm going to risk my life to save another life. I don't know that was the thinking. They said, okay, yes, I'll save some lives. But I don't think they thought that they would be risking their life, and they are, and they're showing up to work every day, and we have to thank them. And we have to recognize nurses everywhere. We have to celebrate their dedication and commitment to their patients and their profession, and tell them, if you know a nurse, tell them. And I'm telling all the nurses right now on the Brad Squad about all the excellent work you are doing. And if you have been cared for by a nurse, you tell them this week you did a great, great job. As a matter of fact, many places around the world, including New York City, at every night at 7 o'clock, people are cheering, honking, making noise for the medical workers on the front lines, including our nurses fighting the coronavirus. The cheers are happening all over the country and the globe in recognition of their service. I was walking down the street on Sunday. Even on Sunday, we don't take a day off in celebrating and thanking and recognizing our medical professionals and our nurses. And I just actually took a video because it was 7 o'clock at night and I was walking down Madison Avenue. There I am in my mask. Nobody can call me a mask hole. I wear my mask everywhere I go. And I was walking down the street, and there I took that picture around 7 o'clock, and then I took this video. Let's watch. And by the way, again, one last congratulations to all our nurses and medical professionals. And yes, Carol, that was me in the mask. It's very hard to breathe in the mask, by the way. You got to get, I'm sure everybody is, it's not comfortable. It's just not comfortable to breathe in the mask, but you got to do it. You got to do it. You have no choice. I am showing you my picture of me walking around in the mask because our leaders are not walking around in masks. They should be. They're not. Somebody has to, and it's not going to be, I don't have a big enough platform, but I think people with big platforms have to come out and show themselves wearing masks. Because if our president and vice president's not going to wear a mask, why should I wear a mask? And we have to have our celebrities and our politicians and our leaders all wearing masks. Our leaders have to lead the way. So I'm not a leader. I have a small little platform. I wear my mask every day. Why do I wear my mask every day? It is to protect you and you and you and you and everybody I come in contact with, because, I feel okay. I look okay. Other than I put on a few pounds in quarantine. Other than that, I look okay. Well, I don't know if I look okay. I need a haircut, but assuming I get a haircut and lose a couple pounds, I look okay. I feel fine, but maybe I'm sick. Maybe I have coronavirus. I'm walking around. Nobody knows. I could have got it yesterday, and God forbid, 13 days would go by before I even know I'm sick. So I'm wearing a mask to protect you as much as to also not get sick myself. The mask is more to protect you, and our leaders have to do it, and they're not. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But meanwhile, according to statistics from the Johns Hopkins University, Authorities in 213 countries and territories have reported more than 3,721,700 novel coronavirus cases worldwide since China reported its first case. That's 3 million people who literally got tested. 3,721,000 people who literally got tested. That number, according to most professionals, probably 10 to 20 times more. So probably there's somewhere between 30 million to 60 million people, if you believe the professionals, their opinion, that number is 10 to 20% less. And that is a conservative number of people who actually have had coronavirus. Now, Donald Trump fired this scientist by the name of Dr. Rick Bright. He was the federal scientist who was removed from his post. He was fired by Donald Trump after disputing the efficacy of an unproven malaria drug. Now, Dr. Bright, who led the office, he was the head guy who was developing for the U.S. government. He was overseeing the development of vaccines by the United States government. Okay, the head guy who was overseeing everything, he was fired in the middle of our coronavirus epidemic. He said because officials had launched a baseless smear campaign against him and leveled demonstrably false allegations about his performance in an attempt to justify what was clearly a retaliatory demotion, because he spoke up and he said chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine don't work. Yet Donald Trump was yelling, what is it? It can't hurt you. Go take it if you're sick. And remember, everybody was rushing around. How do I get this hydroxychloroquine? I need the hydroxychloroquine. And people were calling me up. They're like, I know somebody who has the hydroxychloroquine. I go, how do you get this? And people were going crazy getting it. And then there was a big market for it. And people who really needed it, people who suffer from lupus, that's what it treats, were not getting it because people were hoarding this drug. Now, why does he wanted everybody to take an unproven drug that lacked any scientific merit other than an anecdotal report by a French doctor who said he gave the hydroxychloroquine to 20 patients and a lot of them got better. But nobody knows if they would have got better without the hydroxychloroquine. And these drugs all came and they're imported from Pakistan and India. I'm not sure why to this day, other than maybe Donald Trump wanted to try to solve the problem in a day and say, oh, it's all gone. Woohoo! Magic, all gone. Which is what he said. He said, one day it's all going to go away by magic. That's what he said once. I don't know why he did it. And then when Dr. Bright, who was leading our vaccine, the government oversight of all of the private companies, because it's private companies that are developing the vaccine. It's not the U.S. government, but it's the U.S. government that oversees the development of these vaccines by private companies to make sure they're following rules and protocols and we're getting safe and secure vaccines. And he's saying this hydroxychloroquine doesn't work. Donald Trump's coming up every day saying, take hydroxychloroquine, you got nothing to lose. And this guy gets fired. So he has now filed a whistleblower complaint against Donald Trump. Meanwhile, the New York Times reported yesterday that in New York City, the daily onslaught of death from the coronavirus has dropped to half of what it was. That's really good news for Brad Bernstein and the entire Brad Show crew and the entire crew at the law offices of Spar and Bernstein, because, death is going down in New York. That's where we are. And in Chicago, a makeshift hospital on the Lakefront Convention Center is closing. And in New Orleans, new cases have dropped to just a couple dozen every day. So great news for New York, great news for Chicago, great news for New Orleans. But the rest of America, I don't know. The Times reports that the rest of America is still in the firm grip of a pandemic. Now, for every indication of improvement in New York City, Chicago, and New Orleans, there are new outbreaks that are emerging everywhere else in the United States. As other parts of the United States continue to lift restrictions meant to stop the virus, regular new flare-ups and super spreader events are expected to be very, very close behind. Now, what's a super spreader event? Any event where you get a lot of people together in a close confinement, and you got one sick dude or one sick lady, and that super spreader gets the entire group sick. And then that entire group then goes and disperses, and they go home, and they go walk down the street, or they go to their church on Sunday, or they go to their barbershop. And then each of those individual people contaminate that whole area. And that's how this whole thing starts. So the paper reports that any notion, this is the New York Times, that any notion that the coronavirus threat is fading away is wishful thinking, unfortunately. In America, more than a month has passed since there was a day with fewer than 1,000 deaths from the virus. Almost every day, at least 25,000 new coronavirus cases are identified, and rural towns are now hotspots of the virus. People who live in small towns think they're inoculated from this. They're not. It's spreading through nursing homes, meatpacking plants, unfortunately, prisons, and new outbreaks keep emerging in grocery stores, Walmarts, and factories. Andrew Neumer, who is an associate professor of public health at the University of California, Irvine, said, if you include New York, it looks like a plateau. But if you take New York out, it's a plateau that is moving up of more and more and more coronavirus infections. And that is sad. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is recognizing this. He has said that the coronavirus death toll, which he originally said would be around 60,000 because we assumed that America would be closed for another couple of weeks, that Americans and people who are in America would be social distancing. That number is going to reach above 100,000 deaths. Why? Because we're opening up America too early. You can argue, well, we're killing ourselves by staying home, and that is a valid argument. There is no right answer here. There is no right answer because eventually we got to open up America. We got to be able to work. We got to be able to make a living. We all can't sit on our couch forever. So there has to be some sort of balancing act between protecting the most fragile of Americans, which are your elderly. As far as coronavirus is concerned, your elderly, people who have diabetes, people who have hypertension, underlying heart or cancer disease. Those people, those diabetics, hypertension, elderly people, people who are sick, people who are fat, those people need special attention. They need special protection. There has to be some sort of middle ground somewhere. I'm not sure that we've reached that middle ground. We've gone from one extreme where we all stay home and do nothing to another extreme where go out, let's go get a tattoo, let's go to the barber shop. And there has to be some middle ground. I don't know where that middle ground is, but I think we're going too far to the other side right now. It's my opinion. We said there would be 65,000 deaths. Trump says 100. Well, the New York Times is saying 135,000 by the end of the summer. That means doubling the amount of deaths. And there's a trade-off. Are you willing to accept more death so we can go back to work? Are you willing to accept more death so we don't spiral into a depression? We're in a recession right now. We're in a very deep recession. Are we willing to accept more death so we can go and live our day? It's a very, 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 very tough balancing act. I'm not sure that at least in the United States, we've been able to balance the need to lower death and at the same time be able to open up society to those who are more likely able to fight off an infection from coronavirus. Hopefully we'll get there. Hopefully we will get there. Now, Trump said he's closing the coronavirus task force. Why? Because he's decided he's opening up America. He's allowing governors to open up their states. And he doesn't need Dr. Fauci running around telling everybody social distance, social distance, social distance. Because social distance is the only thing that we have. It's the only tool. There's no pills. There's no vaccine. There's no shots you can take. There's no drink you can take. There's no vitamins you can take to fight this off. The only thing you can do is avoid other people. And he doesn't want Dr. Fauci saying social distance anymore because he wants people to go back to work. He wants factories to start. He wants businesses to start. And you want to know why, most importantly, he wants that? Because he needs to get reelected again. And there is not a person in the world that's going to elect this guy if we're in a depression. Okay. Nobody's voting for Donald Trump when they're out of work and can't feed their family. So he said, you know what? We're going back to work, folks. We're going to get this economy going again. I need to be reelected again. And if people die, so be it. And they're closing down this coronavirus task force because he doesn't need Dr. Fauci standing over his shoulder every day at a press conference contradicting what Donald Trump says, which is basically what's happened. So sad, sad, sad day for America because we don't have the leadership who's able to balance the needs and the health of Americans and those who are in America and the more unfortunate people, the people who are heavy, fat, diabetic, old, with the needs to also have factories going and businesses going. And today, by the way, he's actually keeping the coronavirus task force together, but it's not going to be a task force. He backtracked, but it's not going to be a task force that is going to be coming out every day and telling people to social distance. It's going to be a task force that will be focused on getting vaccines to people and getting treatments to people and reopening America. Well, guess what? There's going to be no vaccine this year, okay? I'll bet my last dollar that in the year 2020, there will be no vaccine. I doubt that there will be a vaccine in 2021. What ultimately will happen is hopefully that there will be some medical treatments that at some point will be refined to such a level that if you do get coronavirus, it'll be like when you have a infection and need an antibiotic. Hopefully there will be a treatment for it, and that treatment will come a lot faster than vaccines. Meanwhile, as I said at the top of the show, you saw me wearing my face mask. Well, you remember Pence, there I am. Remember Pence went to the Mayo Clinic. He did not wear his face mask. Well, in Arizona, Trump also declined to wear a face mask. He said, you know what? If I'm sick, I'm going to infect everybody. But he certainly wore his eye goggles as he toured the Honeywell plant that made respirator masks. And why did he wear goggles? Well, he doesn't want to hurt his eyes. Doesn't want anything going in his eyes that will blind him. So yeah, protect Donald Trump. But God forbid this selfish man would wear a mask for 5 minutes simply as a leader to say, you know something? Everybody should be wearing a mask because if everybody wears a mask, we'll prevent transmissions from one person to the other. Now, at least one sign posted in the facility read as Donald Trump walked by in his goggles without a mask, face mask required in this area, but apparently he didn't read it. Now, what was actually quite funny, if anybody knows Guns N' Roses, when he was touring the assembly line in Arizona, they were playing Guns N' Roses over the loudspeaker, a song Live and Let Die, which was quite ironic that Donald Trump is touring the assembly line in Arizona. If anybody doesn't know how Guns N' Roses goes, live and let die. I can't sing. That's about as much as I'm going to sing. But if anybody knows the song, it just keeps going, live and let die. And it's going over and over. And I don't know if this was done on purpose or not, but certainly quite ironic. Meanwhile, as Donald Trump is opening up America, he's also ordering 100,000 new body bags. The 100,000 new body bags was actually purchased 2 days before he came, was purchased 2 days before he even came out with a new figure on the number of deaths. So why is he purchasing over 100,000 new body bags if we've already had 60,000 or 30 or 40,000 people die? Because he thinks there's going to be at least another 100,000 deaths. So not 100,000 deaths in total, 100,000 deaths beyond what we have already. Why would you need those body bags? I don't know if anybody saw those armed demonstrators storm the Michigan State House for the stay-at-home order. Donald Trump, the Republican Party, my opinion, is encouraging this. They have certain protesters that they get out when they need to get their point made, and hundreds of them angry, some of them armed with rifles. I don't know how the laws are in Michigan, how you're allowed to walk in with a semi-automatic rifle into the Capitol building, but apparently you are. They went into the Michigan State House. Nobody got arrested. Now, it was terrifying lawmakers. The lawmakers were wearing bulletproof vests. And I had a friend say something to me, which I didn't think of at the moment. He's African American. And he said something to me that really, really resonated with me. He says, can you imagine if it wasn't, 20 hillbillies with rifles coming into the Michigan State House shooting, and it was 20 black guys with semi-automatics? Every last one of them would have been arrested, and they all would have went to jail forever, and there would have been an uproar on Fox News. So, as First Lady Leah said, white privilege. I don't know. I mean, I do know. I hate to say it, but yeah, that's what it looks like to me as well. And it's funny because it's not the first thing that I thought of, maybe because I'm white-skinned, but it was pointed out to me by my friend who's black, and I said, without a second thought, you're right. You are absolutely right. It was absolutely white privilege, because 20 black guys walking in there with sawed-off shotguns, what would happen. What would happen. If coronavirus is not enough, we're having now Asian murder hornets coming into the United States. Just as New York is getting rid of coronavirus, we have hornets now we got to worry about killing us. These deadly hornets, this is real. They are from Asia. They measure up to 2 inches long, and they've been found in the United States for the first time. These aggressive insects, nicknamed the murder hornet, they can wipe out a bee colony. If they sting you in groups and bunches, they can kill a human being. Japan attributes more than 50 human deaths a year to these killer hornets. Now, according to the New York Times, they were never in the United States before, but now they are. So we have to watch out for coronavirus, and we now have to watch out for killer hornets. I saw a funny meme. I don't know if we have it or not, but the funny meme, Dr. Evil, this made me laugh. Fear of corona is on the decline. Release the murder hornets. Meanwhile, Washington State entomologist Chris Looney told the New York Times, this is our window to keep it from establishing. If we can't do it in the next couple of years, we are going to be with murder hornets forever. My guess is with Donald Trump, he's going to do nothing to stop murder hornets. We now have to be on the lookout for coronavirus and murder hornets together. Thanks for watching. For more Brad Show Live, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.